So Juan, great to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So this is the very first podcast actually, and so
wow, that's great.
Yeah. So why don't you let the viewers just know a little bit about yourself and what you're doing currently?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I am from Colombia. My full name is Juan Sebastián Burgos Ortiz. I live in Amsterdam and I work in Web3 marketing and growth. And I've been in the cryptocurrency Web3 space for almost 7 years now. It's what I've mostly done in my life, professional lifetime. And I work in a company called Oros here in Amsterdam. And in Oros, we tokenize gold, silver, and platinum, meaning that we create something like Bitcoins, but they are backed by actual gold. They're not just backed by the blockchain, but they're also backed by gold, silver, and platinum. So there are different appliances and different uses for this. And that's what I basically do here, what I'm doing right now.
Thank you very much for sharing, yeah. And so what interests you about the crypto space and the idea that you're working on at the moment, which is tokenization of gold?
Great question. Well, I mean, I've been in the crypto space for a long time already. Like when I started, Bitcoin was about $400, and it was a very small niche idea, and a lot of software that now is being created, like DeFi and NFTs and all that. Those were just simple ideas back then. So I like the idea point of view of making it more decentralized, but I believe that the main idea is basically flawed because it's like you can create tokens out of nowhere, and right now it's mostly speculation. So here in Oros, what I'm very excited about it is that you can actually have tokens that are not just backed by speculation, but they're backed by actual gold. So I think that's also something very, very important.
Interesting, yeah. And so can you tell me a little bit about your journey into crypto as well, like when it first started and how you got to here, including Antler itself, and your time.
I started in crypto in January 2016. I was a trader and I was doing technical analysis, meaning that I still do them, and I do charts, and in those charts I try to basically predict what's going to happen. I try to see some geometrical patterns in the chart, and I try to predict, okay, the price of this is going to go up or it's going to go down. So I was doing it in 2016 and 17, and I got a lot of traction by lots of people who really liked my charts and my technical analysis, and I started becoming quite popular within the crypto world. I had thousands of followers in one of my profiles, and eventually I stopped doing technical analysis and I decided to move into more marketing within the crypto industry, but marketing. So that's what I'm doing right now, and the transition was because when these companies started to actually come up with results or with software, it was not just speculation. There was a software to be used, and there were tokens to be distributed for using this software. So I decided to join marketing because I like the idea of getting people to understand how this works, branding for crypto companies, and that's what I mostly do right now. So I started as a technical analyst, and then I moved into marketing. And business development right now.
Sure. And so in terms of technical analysis, is it mainly based on intuition or historical patterns that you look for, or is it just based on logical reasoning? So maybe
I would say it's a combination of the three of them. I mean, like the technical analysis that I do, it's based on certain theories that have been developed for 150 years even. Like if you take the Elliott waves, you take the Wyckoff accumulation patterns, if you take harmonic patterns, if you take, like, all of this has been come up by different technical analysts in history, and they explain how these patterns behave and how they can be used for forecasting. So I mean, there's a lot of theory and knowledge behind it that I do use, but it's impossible not to recognize that a lot of it goes because of intuition and also sometimes even emotions, which you actually have to try to keep them as low as possible, but at the same time, it's just part of the work of a technical analyst to have all the different viewpoints, not only from the theoretical part, but also what your intuition is telling you. Looking at the past is what every technical analyst does, because we try to predict the future. So we can only take it from the present moment to the past and try to find the patterns in the past. So also, if you see that a specific stock or crypto is behaving in a certain way, price-wise, the price action of that crypto behaves in a certain way, then you can say that you have a fractal, right? So then I also try to find the fractals and try to say, okay, this chart has this fractal and it's similar to this other fractal, so when this other chart did this, it's likely that this one is going to do this. Because what you're basically doing is that you're trying to analyze the market by looking at the chart. I always like to compare it, like, for example, if you go to a cardiologist, for checking out your heart, it may be possible that you actually start to see these patterns as well. When you do like some MRI on your heart or something, and these patterns can be found everywhere. Basically, they can be found everywhere. And with the heart example, you can know if somebody is healthy or not by just looking at the heartbeats. So the chart of the heartbeats tells you how someone is doing in their heart, and I think that can be applied to basically everything. And in finance and crypto, a lot of people use technical analysis in this form as well. Like trying to see, for example, if the market is in a bear market, you have bear market patterns. You have charts that the triangles and everything that happens looks like it's in a bear market. So you have like bearish patterns. And then if it's going up and the market is actually doing well, then you have bullish patterns. That's how it works.
Okay, interesting, yeah. And so in terms of your current work with marketing, can you tell us a little bit about that? Is it using Telegram, what platforms, etc.?
I mean, we do use some Telegram, and Telegram is like part of the work, but I would say it was more important in the past, because Telegram is for using the speculators in the crypto economy, meaning people who buy tokens and they want to guess how much the price is going to be in the future. They're like, okay, I think this token, because of this team and these ideas and these programmers, right now I bought it, I don't know, at $1, and I think it's going to be $5. So you get a lot of people like this in Telegram. But now the marketing in crypto is shifting, because you have to try to find the utility for the tokens, meaning that you have to try to find what the tokens are useful for in real life, not just about speculating with them. So I say that the marketing right now is still using Telegram, although I feel like a bit less and more traditional marketing and growth hacking per se.
Yeah. And so could you tell me also a little bit about what you think the current state of crypto is, and where you see the future of crypto going in the future?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think crypto right now is deflating the speculatory bubble in which we're in which there's so much money put into ridiculous and nonsensical projects. And I do think that in the near future, pretty much all crypto projects are going to be based on how much utility they actually bring to people using them. Meaning, for example, that if I use a crypto service or software, I'm actually getting a benefit from it. It's not like I just use it to speculate with it, but like what is it going to be in the future. But I think that at this point, we're leaving the speculatory world of crypto, and we're getting into the what is it actually used for. Like, I've been talking to other companies as well, and a lot of them are trying to actually find finally how to get into the utility world and live in the speculatory world, because before they had always to be talking all the time and interacting with people who are just token holders, right? And they buy the tokens and they want to be rich because they bought the token that is going to go to the moon, as they call it. But like at the end of the day, this has to be something with real value. So actually, how actually if I buy the token, not because it's a speculation, but how can I use the token to actually bring value to me? Like what can I do with the token that actually brings value to me? So I think that shift is happening. It's very similar to what happened in the dot-com bubble about 20 years ago, a bit 20 years ago. And I do feel that as times moves forward, we're gonna see more projects crashing because they couldn't go from the speculatory bubble to the utility non-bubble, meaning to the utility reality. So I would say about 99% of the projects are not gonna make it. And this is similar to what happened in the dot-com bubble, where 99% of the projects didn't make it. Of course, you have companies like Amazon and Google that did actually make it, and hopefully our Oros, the other companies that I also advise, can make it to in the future to the ones that actually make it. But right now we're shifting from that speculatory company vision mentality to utility vision mentality.
Interesting, yeah. And so for the future of crypto, where do you see the technology heading towards adoption, usage, and like you said, where do you see the most utility in crypto in the future? All of the above.
I do see it in what is happening right now. It's just less speculatory. Like I do see it in finance, with decentralized finance. I do see it, and that includes banking and open banking and fintech and apps and all these things about financial inclusion. I do see it as well in digital assets, like what has become very popular, but it's a big bubble right now, which are the NFTs. I do think that if real utility is found in them, it could be a really good, like it could be really good for the ecosystem to actually find real usages to the NFTs. It's not because the idea of NFTs are not possible to be copied or any of this because they're in a blockchain. It's just flawed, and it's a big lie, by the way, because you can actually copy it in a different blockchain, or you can just do it in a Web 2 environment. But yeah, you don't have the original. But what is really the original in this is it's a big debate about it. So I do think like we are entering a moment in which we, as an ecosystem, the crypto ecosystem is trying to really say, okay, how can my software actually help, for example, food companies? Let's say one company is doing a food project. Okay, how can I actually help food companies to make their process easier? So then you find a real utility for the tokens. It's not just like the utility is a speculatory thing, and I think that that's how important is the shift is happening.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. So do you see the biggest, so obviously there's great things in crypto, but do you see the biggest problem in crypto being the speculative aspect of it, or any other problems?
I don't think it's a problem per se. I just think it's part of the process. I mean, this is new. People don't know it. People speculate. Then people lose their money for not speculating correctly. And then it's like, okay, we cannot speculate anymore because now people want to find utility. So how do we create projects that actually bring utility? So, I think we are at that point in which most projects just have to find a utility and say, okay, let's go to the real world and let's try to get people to use these tokens for making their lives easier, not just to make them think that they're going to be rich someday. That's kind of like the shift, how I see it.
Okay, thanks, yeah. And so with your current company, could you explain to the viewers your current state and where do you see the future path for your company ahead in the crypto landscape?
All right, so, I am a big critic of Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin maximalism. I believe Bitcoin is the biggest bubble within the crypto world. And the main reason for it is that, if you were here back, I think it was 2016, if I'm correct, when Bitcoin Cash was created because of the hard fork that happened between Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Unlimited. You will understand that Bitcoin is actually it's an idea, but it's a meme. I mean, at the end of it, it's just a meme. It's like, okay, I believe that this blockchain actually is Bitcoin, and then the other says, no, this blockchain is Bitcoin. So you do have actually 2 or 3 or 4 versions of Bitcoin. It's just people think that there is just one because they haven't seen the whole history of it. And even though that you can have 21 million Bitcoins, you can create X amount versions of Bitcoin, and they all do the same thing. Even Dogecoin does the same thing as Bitcoin. It just sends money from one place to another. It does exactly the same. So why is one more expensive than the other? It's just because of narrative, it's just because of propaganda, it's just because of speculation, and that's what Bitcoin is, and that's what Bitcoin entails. You cannot buy anything with Bitcoin. There's nothing priced in Bitcoin. It's not a currency, it's not a store of value, it's none of the things that it's supposed to be. So in Horus, we believe that the technology is there, but because Bitcoin is not backed by anything, we are creating actually token or a cryptocurrency. It's not exactly a cryptocurrency, but it's a token that you actually have something behind it. I mean, it's connected to something real. Bitcoin is not connected to anything. It's just a code in a distributed ledger. Whereas Horus tokens, meaning the gold, the silver, and the platinum tokens, they are actually backed by 1 gram of each. So 1 gold token is backed by 1 gram of gold. 1 silver token is backed by 1 silver token. So, and 1 platinum token is backed by 1 gram of platinum. So, and it's stored, and so you actually do have something behind it. It's not just like you're trading something that is just backed by an idea, because that's the case of Bitcoin. It's a narrative, it's an idea. People believe in the idea. People believe that a lot of people believe that the whole world is going to replace the US dollar. I mean, they believe crazy stuff. And we're trying to bring like the intrinsic value, the real world value into this ecosystem. And also we believe that it's really good for accumulating gold. I mean, if you want to accumulate gold, silver, or platinum, but you don't want to worry about storing it. What if it gets stolen in your house? Or you can always just download the app, buy gold, put it into your wallet, and then just hold the gold, because you're holding something that is backed by something. You're holding a token that is backed by something in a warehouse, or sorry, not in a warehouse, I mean in a vault, right? In a storage facility. So I do believe that we're really bringing real value to the ecosystem, the cryptocurrency blockchain ecosystem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And so obviously you're in it for the long term for crypto. But what do you make of this year's crypto downturn, or do you're taking a big picture overall? Were you not concerned by it?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
The market downturn? There was a
no. I mean, it's normal that the market went down, because I mean we are, right now is September 2022, and we are in a big. We're in a crisis that is caused by inflation, and the supply chains are not at their best because of the war in Ukraine, among other factors. So this brings the speculatory market down. It's not just the crypto market down, but the whole speculatory market. So if you also look at the stock market, and if you look at all the speculatory assets, they're crashed. And the reason for that is because when you actually have a booming economy, and when you actually have a let's say green, like bull economy, where everything is going up, where the basic needs of the people are being addressed. Everyone has access to energy, to water, to all of this, and everyone's living a good life. Then you can go into the speculatory world. A society can start to go into crazy ideas to, let's create this app for doing this crazy stuff, or let's create this other app for doing this crazy stuff. So crypto is embodied into it as well. Whereas what's going on right now with all the crises that I just mentioned is that we're not right now, Europe and most of the developed countries are not in the same position as they were 1 year ago, before the war started, because the inflation is high, cost of living is getting harder, the energy cost is 10 times fold what it was a year and a half ago. So this crisis makes it's unsuitable to be speculating in nonsense or this speculatory stuff when you don't know if you can pay your bills at the end of the month. So people need to get rid of the speculatory assets in order to pay the bills, to pay their energy, to pay their water, everything that they need for surviving pretty much in even in modern time. It's just like it's taken for granted a lot, but at the end we forget that we live in a macroeconomical world, that if these things happen, the whole market, this whole speculatory market will crash. It's crashing, and it's taking crypto with it, because if anything is extremely speculatory, it's crypto. So if you need to supply your basic needs, you're not gonna be speculating, and if you cannot pay your bills, you're not gonna be speculating. So the speculatory bubble is over, because we're also in a period where real assets, real stuff is becoming more valuable than speculatory assets, speculatory stuff.
Okay, interesting, yeah. And so are there any particular technologies in crypto or particular coins that you find just fascinating, as just really interesting to you? Maybe.
Well, the most one actually, and I have to say, is Aurus, because AURUS, because the tokens are backed by something. They're backed by gold, and that is extremely game changing, because it's not just speculation. Like the coin is not gonna collapse, because it's just as it happens with a lot of coins, that it's kind of like a pump and dump. In this case, it cannot happen. I mean, because unless everyone decides at the same time to sell their gold all over the world, and if something is happening, is that people, governments, institutions, private entities, they're accumulating gold. They're not selling gold. I mean, they are, but they're not. They're overall accumulating the gold. So I believe that Aurus, where I work, is a great project. I like Dusk too. It's also a Dutch project, because Dusk is bringing, like, for example, right now, every wallet on the Ethereum blockchain is open to be seen by anyone. Like, if you have your tokens and somebody knows that wallet with your tokens is your wallet, they can know how many tokens you have, because it's open to see. Whereas there are some projects like Dusk that they're creating a privacy enhanced blockchain, so that you can have certain things not seeable for the overall population. Meaning, for example, if I have a wallet with Dusk, I can actually activate a function so that it's not seeable by everybody. I mean, not everybody can see it, but only the people that I give permission to can actually access the information within that wallet. So I think the privacy coins, the privacy sector in the crypto blockchain ecosystem is going to boom after this crash, which I believe is still happening, the crash. I also believe Zcash, being a proof of work, Zsnarks, crypto blockchain project is going to be huge. I do believe that Basic Attention Token, that has certain utility into it. I also think it's a good project. Basic Attention Token is by the Mozilla Firefox guy. He created this project, and he's quite good, I think. And then, I think Chainlink is also good, because they have a good team, because they have a good software, because they have something that is needed, which are the decentralized oracles. All blockchains do need decentralized oracles. So I think that's also a big plus for because there are not too many decentralized oracle protocols, and I think Chainlink is the one doing the best. I would say those are the ones that I consider that they're gonna do very well in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, and so for newbies or newcomers to crypto, obviously there's a wealth of information out there, so it can be kind of overwhelming. So do you recommend any sources of information to start out reading, maybe books or certain coins to look up on, just for a new person into crypto? How would you ease someone into that space?
I would try. I mean, when I would advise, I think most people don't do this, but I would try to find like a chronology, as many as I could, about what's happened in the last 7 years or 10 years, for example. And I would start probably with pre-MTGOX, MTGOX was the biggest exchange of crypto in the world in 2013, and it collapsed. And then what happened after it, and every step of the process, how Ethereum was created, how Ethereum split into two blockchains, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. So because that's the way that you understand actually this game is if you go from the beginning, since Nakamoto came out with the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin, and then how it went to nowadays. So it's a set of historical moments, and I believe that it's good to learn it as with like using this set of historic moments. Like, okay, this is when Nakamoto came out with the white paper. Then he started contacting, I think, with Gavin Anderson, the other one, Nick Szabo, and the rest, for creating the first Bitcoin mines and connecting them and all this. So I think that is the best approach. It's not just like go online and read what is proof of stake and what is proof of work and try to learn it like this. I wouldn't recommend it because people will get really confused, and that's what usually happens. But it's good if you actually can learn it from the beginning, like what happened in 2008, what happened in 2009, 10, 11, and so on until nowadays. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Yeah. So let's switch topic a little bit. So let's go back to a bit about your background, a bit about how you grew up and your experiences that shaped who you are today. So obviously you're from Colombia, so maybe speak a little bit about how you grew up, your earliest memories of childhood, and maybe some of the experiences that you think shaped who you are today, and maybe share a little bit about that.
Well, I grew up in Colombia. Yeah, I grew up in the Caribbean part, in a city called Cartagena, the Indias. Cartagena is a very hot city. The Caribbean is a hot place. I remember I grew up next to the beach, and I grew up with my grandmother, my grandfather, my father, my mother, and my brother for most of the first years, I would say. And it was a good childhood, I went to school, I had friends, coming to my place to play video games. Well, I do have to acknowledge that I used to play a lot of video games, a lot. Like I was, I used to have, the Super Nintendo, and I had a Nintendo 64, and I had a PlayStation 1, a GameCube. I had a Wii, I had all of them, and I played most of the games. So I think that shaped me a lot, because even though I grew up in a very specific context, of what Colombia actually is, especially in the 2000s and the 90s, but I don't remember much of the 90s, but the 2000s, which is what I remember the most growing up, it was like I had like a vision of the world that was very influenced by Japan, and it's really crazy. But all the games, Sony and Nintendo, they're both from Japan. So I used to play a lot of video games, and I think this shaped a lot of my personality about always pursuing crazy ideas and just going for something. I live in many places in the world, and I think it's also related to the fact that I used to play so many video games, because I think you play one and then you finish, and then you play the other one and then you finish, and then you play the other one, and so on for, I don't know, most of the 18 years that I had as a minor. I would say about 13 I played video games. So so yeah, I think it's that's something that really shaped my personality. Also the fact that Cartagena is it's an extremely touristic city. So you always see people from all over the world, and I think that also made me understand how small the city where I was, Cartagena, is compared to the rest of the world, but also how it is, how big the world is per se, how many nationalities there are, and how many things you can actually do. And I don't think the way I live my life is completely related to specifically like following a pathway like a lot of people do, you know, like a lot of people go to university and then they go do masters and then they get the regular job. I just go with life as it goes and as I feel it, you know. I move a lot because of intuition and you know, and yeah, and so for a long time, I mean, I've lived in Germany and in Brazil, and I had long periods of times in France and sometimes even in Italy and in Spain. But I just didn't really feel like I liked any of these places to fully settle down. In Colombia also not. So I've been coming to Amsterdam in the Netherlands for 10 years, and I always really enjoyed it here, and how, especially how the Dutch people are, work-wise and many other factors. So I decided to completely move here. So I decided to do it through Antler, like to get the help of Antler. And I created a project. Unfortunately, it wasn't chosen. Antler is a VC, venture capital firm, where you can get funded for an idea or a project. I think honestly, going a little bit back, I think I didn't play my cards the best way I could with Antler. But I think it's the results are good anyways, because I'm working right now where I want, and I really think that I'm working in the place that I have to be. You know, it's like after all these years of moving around for so long, after doing this and that, I ended up here, and I think this is the perfect place to end up in.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for sharing. So just to touch on a little bit about that, so just to explain to the viewers, so Juan and I were in Antler, which is a startup accelerator. It's essentially a boot camp around 2 months long. Around 60 people all over the world come together and try to form a company through that. So yeah, maybe just explain a bit more detail how you found the whole process, what you thought of it.
Of Antler?
Yeah, and just the whole experience overall. And
I really liked it. Yeah. I mean, Antler was a game, you know, it was a very interesting game. You know, you're with 60 people from all over the world. You have to find a partner, create an idea, very well founded, meaning like you very well grounded, meaning that you have to have, you know, like financial forecasts and a very good case for a company to happen. So it also, Antler is a speculatory VC, meaning that they invest in companies that maybe will work, maybe they won't, because they're new ideas. But what I like about Antler is precisely that you get to find dozens of people with very crazy ideas as well, and maybe it can work out. You know, you can meet someone that actually has kind of like a chemistry with you, and then you can come up with a very good value proposition. And then if it's good enough and you're chosen, you get funded for it. So I think Antler was really good for that. I think I also saw, because for me it was a bit different, I think, that for the rest, because I think for most people Antler, it's like they were having regular jobs, and then they went to the startup scene, like, you know, I don't want to be more corporate, and now I want to be more startup-like. But for me, it was the opposite, because I was being too much into my own entrepreneurships and my own crazy projects. So going into Antler was also like doing that, but with other people. So I really like that as well, of Antler.
Okay, yeah, interesting, yeah. And so, just to explain to viewers, we're in the beautiful city of Amsterdam right now. So we've been living here for the past couple of months. So you touched on a little bit, but maybe explain also a little bit what you love so much about the city of Amsterdam. What would be cycling, the people, and yeah, just what you like to do in Amsterdam in general.
Yeah, I mean, I've been coming to Amsterdam literally since 2012. That's the first time I came here, and New Year's Eve and Christmas. And since day one I came to the country, I really enjoyed the people. I think that the Europeans here are very different to the rest of Europe. I think they are friendlier, more grounded, more down to earth, especially like that. Not in every sense, but in most senses. So the first thing that I would say is that I really enjoy the Dutch people. You know, and there are so many things that people find, like foreigners find here, or expats, you know, they find here quite weird. Like, for example, stampot, you know, stampot.
Yeah.
I love stampot.
Yeah,
to me,
it's a great
and I know, I like, you know, the simplicity of the food. I mean, I do enjoy also French and Italian food in that regard, but I like how the Dutch are, you know, I'm gonna have lunch, some bread with some cheese and some butter or whatever, and then lunch is over. Just the practicity of it, of the Dutch, I like it because I think it goes with my personality. Also, in the part of Colombia where I'm from, Cartagena, people are very direct. In the Caribbean, people are just very direct overall. It's just people are, and the same goes for the Netherlands. So I also like that. And, you know, this is a port city. I grew up in a port city too, so I do see the similarities between the two cultures as well. So I mean, the first thing I would say is the people, and you know, and the culture and everything that goes around. The second thing is how good Amsterdam is for making business. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, you have fun and biking. I'm gonna talk about biking probably later, but it's great. But also how you can really develop yourself professionally here. You know, it's like, I don't feel that I could get the same by moving to like somewhere else. You know, I don't think like if I was in Latin America or another European country, I could be doing what I do right now in terms of work and in terms of my professional outlook as it is right now. So I would say like the professionalism and the business mentality of the Netherlands is amazing. I like also how the balance between life, work, and you know, your regular life and work is. Yeah, and the third thing is, you know, the gezelligheid, as they call it here, or the, I don't know how to translate that, like the overall joy, you could call it like that, or the general joy of Amsterdam and the Netherlands in general. Like, you bike everywhere. You know, I haven't taken like a public transport in 4 or 5 months since I have my bike now here, and you know that also creates, and also the freedom. You know, this is the most free country for. I am not, but for LGBTQ people, but you also feel it like in everything. It's like everyone is like, okay, well, you can believe whatever you want as long as you don't bother me, and I love that. You know, I believe every country should be like that, because most countries, as you know, they are not. You know, they always want to mess in your own business, but in my own business. But at the end of the day, it's like here, it's like everyone is on their own business. Everyone respects. Oh, do you want to believe Earth is flat? Okay, cool, do it. I mean, I don't care. It's something like this mentality. Whereas in other countries, people would be, oh, why do you believe Earth is flat and all this? Of course, Earth is not flat. I'm not saying that, but I'm giving you an example of how ridiculous it can get to the point that people, okay, well, if you want to believe that, just believe that. You know, the Dutch don't care as long as it doesn't really affect it. So, you know, you have also this society where everything is like so just open, and also with cannabis, how open it is here in the society. I also like that. I also like the freedom. You know, I don't drink alcohol anymore, so being able, like, for example, not to drink and actually to smoke instead of drinking, and also feel like I can do it here, where in other parts of the world it would be completely fine if I drink, but if I smoke it would be completely horrible, whereas I think that it's worse if I drink, because alcohol is worse than cannabis. But cannabis is a medicine. Alcohol would never be considered a medicine. So it's basically those things that I think make Amsterdam and the Netherlands overall a really great place to be.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, so let's touch on the lifestyle as well. So
on the what?
On the lifestyle. So obviously you're a highly motivated, successful individual. So what would be like a perfect daily routine for you? Let's start off like what time you go to bed, what time you wake up, like what is your morning ritual? Do you make a coffee? What time you start work? And let's go through that. I find that quite interesting. I think viewers will find that quite interesting.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm a very late morning person. Because I'm a very night owl, so I wake up something like between 9 and 10 a.m. So it's usually like at 9:30, 9. And then, you know, I make coffee and I make breakfast. I either have cereal for breakfast or more like an American breakfast, which is like, you know, eggs and sausage and and maybe bread with hummus. I add some hummus now. I really like it. Some apple juice, and it usually takes me like 15 minutes to get my breakfast ready. Of course, if it's cereal, it takes me 5 minutes. But I usually do smoothies as well. Like I try to eat healthy, even though it's always the easiest thing. But yeah, then I come to work between 11 and 12 because I usually stay the 8 hours. So if I arrive, let's say at 11, I just leave at 7 p.m. It's usually how I do it. And then, it's either I go out after work because there's a lot to do out here, as you know, in Amsterdam, or I just stay home and I play guitar. I'm learning how to play guitar, so I try to practice a lot, or sometimes I go to the gym. I try to go to the gym at least twice a week, but also doing other kinds of exercises and workouts beyond just going to the gym. So like biking, or I went bouldering last week. It was really interesting. Cool. Yeah. And I would say that my routine is actually not perfect right now, but it's close to being perfect because I do enjoy my job. I do enjoy coming to the office. I do enjoy working in what I do. So I just try to give my best during work and try to just feel really chill and relaxed and good during the times that I'm not at work. But I would say right now, my life is, I haven't really had vacation for a year and a half, and I'm very work focused right now. I think I'm gonna be like that for some 6, maybe more months, and then I can just really focus into myself per se more, because right now I feel like I'm really building my professional life, basically.
Okay, yeah. And so about your future as well. So if money was not an issue, would you still work in the crypto space, or would you do something completely different?
I mean, it's a very good question. I think like for a while, actually, I was doing really well in crypto. Money wasn't an issue, but it was because I was in crypto and I was doing very well in the speculative bubble. But as of right now, if I did have the money, I think I would be more of an investor. Like if I had just, I don't know, $10 million or $1 million, I would be an investor in different projects. Like I would work as an investor and maybe manager of these investments. And I would just try to make music more, which is what I'm trying to start doing in the last month. I think if I did have the chance, that's what I would be focusing on.
Yeah. Is that how you like to spend your time then? Your free time, playing guitar, making music?
Well, I played guitar like a decade ago was the last time that I really got into it. But now I finally got into it back again like a month ago. So I'm just spending my time more like that. But yeah, just using my free time to actually do stuff that I feel happy with, going out with friends. I do that a lot. I have really good friends here, really good friends here in Amsterdam, and I really enjoy just living a normal life too. It's not all about work, but also about these other things. So I think, if money was not a problem, I would probably be developing crypto projects by myself. Like, okay, let's do this protocol like this, or let's do this other one, and I would be just improving in music.
Interesting.
And maybe a lot of technical analysis too. I want to get deeper into that. I think there is a lot of undiscovered things in technical analysis, because technical analysis at the end of the day is just wave theory. You're trying to predict where the wave is going, but how do you predict where the wave is going? Well, you have to analyze it correctly, but how do you analyze it correctly? There's a lot of theory on it, but I think that the theory can be developed way further. Like you can add AI into it to try to predict it better, and among many other things, although it's extremely hard, and what it takes mostly is time. So what I would do if I had the money was also just working these 3 things, like music, investing in protocols and creating my own crypto blockchain protocols, and also just developing the wave theory that I've been studying for a while.
Okay, cool. Thanks, And so for any listeners or viewers here that might be quite young, so do you have any sort of advice or tips for young people listening that on how to maybe live their life or maybe their career or just having a more fulfilling existence on planet Earth?
Well, I think that, you know, I don't really feel like I'm that good at telling people like fulfill your dreams and all this.
Yeah.
I think it's all about attitude, you know, like, you know, like I could have perfectly just stayed in Colombia and get a regular job there and never have done anything of what I've done, you know. I mean, I speak 5 languages. I could have just not learned the 5, just English and Spanish. Honestly, would have been enough. But I like challenges, so I would tell people just challenge yourself, you know, just see where you can go, just see what better version of yourself you can create. And always know that you can always start over. I do believe like I would, you know, I do believe that you can always kill yourself as you are as a person and just create a new person out of you, you know. You can always like say, okay, I don't like this life and just start over again. I kind of did it last year, you know. I was in Brazil and I was creating a new life there. But I after 7-8 months in there, I was like, okay, this is not for me. This is not the life that I actually want. I lived it. I mean, I did live the life that I wanted, and I realized that it was not what I wanted. I wasn't happy with it. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna create myself a new life. And then I came to Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I'm creating that new life. So I would, that my advice would be just go for it. I mean, just if you feel like your life right now is not what you want, just go for it, creating a new life. Just don't overthink it. Just be strategic. I would also really recommend that. A lot of people think it's just about, you know, being like hopeful and getting things done by that, but I think it's really good if you're strategic and to pursue your things. I would say be strategic and just reinvent yourself.
Okay, thanks. And so just to touch on that, so you're a very well-traveled person, so you've been to many different countries. Maybe talk a little bit about that, also what you've learned from traveling all of those countries and how that's helped you as a person.
I mean, I think that the most thing that it's you're never gonna like, a lot of people think that they can convince people about stuff, you know. I regularly don't feel that way anymore. I mean, I am more like, okay, this is what this other person believes, and I just like understand it, and that's about it. Like but I try to really understand it. Like I try to really get into their shoes, how the person's world view is, how they grew up, how they relate with their communities, whatever. So, you know, I've been a lot in South America and in Europe. I would say that these are the 2 main like areas of the world that I know. I've been also a little bit in Thailand and in the Middle East, in Israel and Palestine, but mostly, it's been mostly here, North America and South America and in Europe. And you know, you do learn that, you know, everyone has their own opinion, everyone has their own wishes, independently of where they are. But I think what has taught me the most is, you know, when sometimes you're here in the Netherlands, you realize that a lot of people don't understand how the whole world is. You know, they take the first world for granted, and I don't. You know, I've lived in parts of Colombia that are like, you know, I didn't live all my life in Cartagena. I also lived in the capital city in Bogota, and I live in some parts that are very like low income areas, you know, or low middle income areas, and I, you know, and I do enjoy it too. Like I do enjoy just not being wealthy all the time and having to, you know, like live life like to the fullest. Also means to me just, you know, going into a specific context and just trying to adjust to that context. So I feel like traveling has really taught me to adjust. Like if I am, for example, if tomorrow I had to move, I don't know, to Japan, I'm sure that within a month I'm already settled. Like I am very strategic in that. I kind of, and meeting a lot of different people also gives you an idea of how people overall are. Because if you see that people everywhere that you go share several things. You will see that there's like a common thing in humans. So you also kind of learn a lot about it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and maybe like a little philosophical question. So, do you think there's a kind of a meaning to life in general, or you don't think there's any meaning, or you're still searching for that meaning in life? Yeah.
You know, I think the fact that I played all these video games when I was growing up, I mean, I can assure you that they were more than 200-300 at least. I think that I came with that, like I have that very embedded in my head that it's all about playing the game and winning. So to me, it's just trying to find the game that you want to play and try to win, you know. So I came to the conclusion that I want to do all this stuff with blockchain and crypto. I want to be really good in music, and I want to be really good in the wave theory that I mentioned. But I understand too that this is something that takes time and it takes years to do. So I would say, like, yeah, life does have a meaning. Life does have a goal, in my opinion, but you have to create it, you know. But I do think, I don't know, maybe Aristotle would be someone to quote here. I don't remember the exact quote, but it's like you do find what it's good and ideal for you, you know. I think that these three things that I found, meaning music, my work in the crypto world, in marketing and whatever, and the wave theory that I'm trying to understand more and develop more, is something that I came up with because it's adjusts to my personality and adjusts to what I like. It's like I tried many things, you know, and many I just didn't feel it, or but if you it's like we're compatible to a specific life path. So I think that the main goal or the main game is to actually find that life path and just embrace it. So, you know, I think also the reason why I was traveling so much was trying to find that life path, and I think I have found it not only in what I like to do and what I'm doing, but also in the context that I'm doing it, meaning in the Netherlands and in Amsterdam.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the end of the podcast. But do you have anything else to share, or any social media feeds you want to share about your company? Have you got any Twitter tags or Instagram tags for your company, or anything you want to share? Not yet.
Yeah, well, you can. No, I think it's good. You can check aurus.io. Is aurus.io. For checking the company, Aurus, and the tokenization of gold, silver, and platinum that we're doing. I work in the marketing area, so if you have any questions about this, you can write to me. It's Juan, Juan.Burgos, Burgos, at aurus.io. And if anyone has any questions, they can easily contact me. Yeah, I'd be happy to respond. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, man.
Great, Alex.
Good
I
to see
appreciate
you
it.
as well.
Thank you.
All right.